How to make a mixtape.
Now, the making of a good compilation tape is a very subtle art, many do's and don'ts. First of all, you're using someone else's poetry to express how you feel. This is a delicate thing. You gotta kick it off with a killer, grab attention. Then you gotta take it up a notch. But you don't want to blow your wad, so then you gotta cool it off a notch. There are a lot of rules.
How to make a mixtape.
All right, welcome to the first episode of How to Make a Mixtape. My name's Roderick. I'm here with my friend Donnie. How's it going, man?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to do this. We've been talking about it for what seems like forever.
What prompted it was we've both been in contact surrounding 60 Songs That Explain the 90s, one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to. And as I'm listening to these things and I'm looking up the playlist that continues to get added to, I'm like, Jesus, there's so much history here. This is my youth. This is my childhood. And I'm like, obviously a bit of a pop culture lover. It takes me back to High Fidelity, the rules that Rob discussed in How to Make a Mixtape. Like, the whole, you've got to take it up a notch. You start slow, you've got to take it up a notch. And like, as you go through this stuff and, the ranking of everything that we do, I think still to this point, of the songs that we love the most just kind of puts that together. We've all had that experience where we've made these mixtapes and we prioritized the most important things that we could find and built out these mixtapes so that we hope that the recipient or the listener is as invested as they could as the time that we put into making them. So,
yeah, I mean, I was on board from the moment you suggested it. I'm like, I think if I remember, there was a reference on one of those episodes that Rob was talking about mixtapes or, playlists or something. And you texted me and our friend, Shane, who we all listen to that podcast religiously. And you're like, what would your playlist be of, and I forget the topic, but you posed the topic.
I vividly remember the topic was, what were the CDs that were in your dad's or CDs or cassettes in your dad's car growing up?
Yeah, and it was a blast just thinking about it. I remember I was walking my dog and I'm reading your guys' songs coming in and I'm like, what was my dad listening to? And I'm texting, I'm just like, this is fantastic. And then I think it was your idea too, of like, hey, we should do this. We should do a podcast. And I was in instantly. Yeah. I'm like, yes, absolutely. Let's get into that. So we have a basic structure here. I mean, this is like the pilot episode, so things could adjust or change. But the idea is that going forward, I think we want to have a guest. We're just doing the two of us right now, but going forward, we want to have a guest.
Totally.
The idea would be every episode has a theme, and we're making a mixtape based on that theme. And so we each bring an equal number of songs to the table, and we'll alternate back and forth. And at the end of it, we've got a mixtape that goes with the theme within the rules that I'll read out here in a few moments, but it's the High Fidelity rules.
Yeah.
I mean, they're more like guidelines, really. We can probably add to these or remove over time, but like I went off of what is in the book, the original High Fidelity book, as well as the TV show and the movie. I kind of like found that moment in all three of them, and I kind of pulled what felt applicable out of all three. So here's what we got. So I'm going to read these out real quick. So number one, you got to have a killer opening track that grabs the listener's attention. Less of a rule and more of a recommendation for a good mixtape, I guess, but totally. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Number two, each song should flow smoothly into the next, creating a seamless listening experience. That makes sense for some topics. That's probably irrelevant for today's, but it's still worth noting, I suppose.
Well, I think that once we have the contribution of the songs, whoever's choice it was, where this one was yours, you're going to have to arrange these songs to make the perfect playlist.
Yeah, I'm going to have to sequence this following the episode. Maybe that's one of the things early on each episode. We can kind of review how we feel about the previous episode's mixtape now that we've had a chance to listen to it,
Yeah,
like
totally.
how you feeling about it.
The recap.
All right, number three. The playlist should have a good balance of different genres, tempos, and moods. Variety keeps things interesting.
Totally true. I mean, my playlist couldn't be weirder.
I think all of these are dependent on the theme too, because if your theme is like introduction to early hip hop or something, you're gonna have pretty much it's all gonna be one genre. So you're not gonna have different genres there. But
totally,
All right, number 4. The playlist should tell a story or convey a specific emotion. It should take the listener on a journey.
That's deep.
I don't know about that one. I mean, it's
a
deep,
heavy
but
one.
like that's going to be hard with 3 people contributing randomly in most episodes to a playlist.
I think the playlist organizer is going to have important things to take care of.
It's definitely something to strive for. That's going to be difficult sometimes, I think. But number 5, it can't be too obvious, but can't be too obscure either, unless that's the theme. I think that's really talking about the individual songs you add, which makes sense. Like if you're making a mixtape, presumably for somebody, we're making this for ourselves or for the general public, I guess. But in theory, you're making a mixtape for somebody. You don't want them to hear something so obscure that they can't find it or don't know what the hell they're hearing. So that makes sense.
Yeah, but like at the same time, you pull that song out for the breakup playlist that broke your heart, and then the recipient is like, oh, this means nothing to me, which is usually pretty funny.
I think what I like about this one, though, is I think it's, again, these are guidelines. It's okay to put something obscure in these for sure. But I think why I like that one for this podcast is I can foresee, and I'm one of these people sometimes, and I have friends that who are like so into music and so into like underground music or what they're into that they just almost want to like brag about how obscure this band is.
Oh, totally. For
it's
sure.
Like, maybe leave that at home unless you really feel like the song is important for the mixtape. But
totally.
All right, number 6, 2 left here. Number 6, you can't double up on songs by the same artist.
I think it's totally true.
I think that one is a rule. In fact, I think if today, if you say an artist that I also have, I'm gonna have to like audible it and be like, shit, I got to do another one. So
yeah, I for this one we don't have duplicates, but there might be duplicates in the future. There might, like if we're doing influential pop punk jams, we're gonna have duplicates. But for this one, I think we'll be okay.
Fair. That one's a definite rule, though. And then number 7, the closing track should leave a lasting impression and make the listener crave more. Basically, you started the rules with a killer opener. You close the rules with having a great closer. I mean, that's sequencing stuff, and it makes sense. So
makes sense.
I mean, these could change over time, but we want to have some kind of foundation for this. Plus, kind of dig the high fidelity link. So
for sure.
All right, we'll see how this goes. So episode 1. The theme for this episode is recorded off the radio. So,
man.
What's that mean to you, Donnie?
So many memories. So, for those of us, there were so many important songs that your first phase of exposure was the radio, right? You didn't necessarily have the cool music listening friends, right? When pop music was, your only ingestion was pop radio or whatever it was. You had, that was how you built your songs. And who had $18 to go buy a CD?
It was also a cool time to like, you could dabble. It was the only way to dabble without buying the full album, right? Like
totally.
Now I can just go on a streaming service and listen to one song from an artist because that's all I care about. And you couldn't do that back in the day. It was either the radio and then you hope something comes on, or if you want to be able to listen to that song over again, you had to hit record on your boombox and you had to time it, and
you had to make sure you had batteries in your Walkman.
Yeah, it was a whole skill. It was a skill.
It was a skill.
It took patience. You had to sit there waiting, and there's the crossfades. Like
you probably ended up with a few minutes of radio disc jockey, like David Cross's, disc jockey impersonation of the best and worst Midwest disc jockeys. That was talking before your song started.
I was frustrated. Like I'd rather the song start to bleed into another song and hit stop personally than hear some dude's voice. But I guess it depends on who the DJ was. But I'm like, you can ruin the end of a song by just going into your DJ voice spiel.
Totally.
And kind of mess my mixtape up, dude.
Yeah.
So.
Plus, the best thing about cassettes is how much media did you fit on a cassette tape? I mean, you could fit 25 songs on the front of a cassette. You got a 50-song cassette tape?
It feels like you could fit a lot. I think you could buy different speeds, right? I probably should have looked this up. I probably should have been like, what could I fit? I can picture the tapes that I used to get to. They were like clear and they had like hot pink and blue. Like
totally. And they were from Radio Shack.
Dude, here's what I am excited for. Different topics are going to be a little more like curated. This one is intentionally like, this could be anything. This could be any genre, any artist. And that's what's cool. Well, and that's how it was. Cause like you weren't trying to make, I mean, you could try to make, like I could have tried to make like a punk rock mixtape, but that's even harder. Then I'm just listening to the alternative rock station all day, every day, waiting for specifically a punk song.
Totally.
Versus like, if I'm just trying to record songs that I like so I can listen to them again, I'm switching stations when there's a song I don't like, right? Like waiting for something. I'm just ready to hit record.
Hoping your radio has presets so you're not tuning the knob to get to the exact spot so you don't have static in the background.
I mean, when the boomboxes came out with the electronic presets, it was like a game changer. You could just cycle through the buttons.
Big move for sure. And Rod, where did you grow up? I don't remember where you grew. Did you grow up in Indiana?
Yeah, Indianapolis. Yep.
So you had probably pretty big radio. We had big radio in Chicago, but even still, you're moving, the 4 big pop radio songs. You've got 2 pop rock and you got 1 alt rock. You're moving between those, and maybe you might dip your toe in the classic rock every once in a while. But you're moving amongst 4 radio stations trying to build a tape that you're going to listen to when, when were you listening to most of your tapes? Was it on the way to school? Was it?
No, my parents were big radio people, so that it was always the radio for them. Well, I'm trying to think, when did I get a Walkman? It would have been whenever I had a Walkman. So then it would have been anywhere, like my sister's soccer games or something even, right? Because I could just take them with me. I just remember listening to a lot of music in my room as a kid. And again, it was tapes before CDs. So like either I had a tape that I bought at a store or I was listening to my mixtapes.
Sure.
So, honestly, not in the car until I could drive. And by the time I could drive, I had CDs.
In the Discman with the cassette and the cassette deck to have the Discman play through the cassette player.
100%. When I say I was listening to CDs, I did not have a CD player in my car. I had a Discman and a cassette tape adapter.
Totally. It was the only way to do it.
All right. Let's get into the songs, man. Let's do this playlist. You want to go first?
What was your approach towards your delivery order? Mine's chronological because I can remember chronologically where I was at when I was first recording these songs.
I did mine. Mine is not chronological. Mine is more, which I guess it doesn't matter because we're going to sequence this afterwards, but mine's kind of almost like in priority order, I guess. Like, what was more important to me to have on tape to least important?
Sure.
I mean, I started with like 14 songs to narrow it down to 6. So I guess we should have said that. We're shooting for 12 songs for each of these. Right. So
that's the appropriate length of a mixtape.
Yes. Feels like it is. All right. First song, 1992, No Rain by Blind Melon.
Oh, man.
Why this song is because it gets, well, one, it's just a jam, but it gets stuck in your head. There's something about that, like, it's got that 90s happy positivity, like jangly thing going on, even though it's not a happy song. Like, it's a pretty depressing song lyrically, but it doesn't sound like it, But man, this song was everywhere in like the early 90s, and it was on like alt radio, but it was also on like pop radio, might have even crossed over into some like adult contemporary ones because it felt like a kind of just like a pop song.
Did you do Blind Melon past this song?
Later in my life, I did. Like,
man, are they good?
The next album, Soup, it's so good, dude. And but no, not at the time. At the time, it was just this song. I just remember that B being everywhere from the music video. I remember not just friends listening to the song, but friends like older siblings being obsessed with the song. Like, I did have a friend whose older sister had the actual album. I said CD, it wouldn't have been a CD. She had the cassette probably, or the album.
Right, totally. Self-titled, off of their, I don't know if it was their first record. I know it was their self-titled. And
it was their first, yeah.
Was it? it bums me out to my core that they probably oftentimes get thrown into the one-hit wonder pool, because those next two albums, Soup and Nico, are both ridiculously good.
They did get thrown into that. I guess, I mean, it was such a big hit. I think I looked it up. It only hit number 20 on the charts at its height, but it went multi-platinum as a single. So like that thing was still everywhere. And
454 million Spotify listens.
It's massive. And like,
yeah,
it just takes you back. Like, I know the idea of this isn't necessarily what I feel now listening to it, but it kind of is. And it really transports me, maybe more so, maybe not any other song, but it's one of the main songs that I can physically feel myself being pulled back into like the early 90s.
Totally.
When I hear that song.
Absolutely.
And another, just a side note on this one, I think I might have had an extra like hard connection to this song because there's this thing growing up, like it's like an inferiority complex being from Indiana. Like Indiana's not a cool place to be from. So any cool thing in Indiana gets talked about a ton. And the singer for Blind Melon's from Lafayette.
Shannon Hoon. Yeah. From Lafayette, buried in Lafayette.
Yeah. So it was kind of one of those things. It's like, holy shit, this like rock star, Andy's from Indiana. So like that felt cool. It was like him and Axl Rose were both from the same high school. So
singing together on Guns N' Roses. Not No Rain. Friggin' Don't Cry.
Yeah. Don't Cry. Yep. And I didn't know that
too. Yeah.
I didn't know that until I looked it up.
You started doing this? Really? Oh man, he's in the music video.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a Guns N' Roses fan. And that's why I didn't know that.
That's where you go wrong the first time. All right, first song. It's a equally as good one-hit wonder, unfortunately. And it's totally Life is a Highway by Tom Cochrane. The original version of Life is a Highway by Tom Cochrane, I can picture a hot 1990s summer day. Like you might be on your way to the local area ice cream spot. Ours was Jack Frost. And you're going to get ice cream. It's hot. It's a weekend day. Maybe dad's taking you for ice cream on that day. And you are listening to Life is a Highway, even if it's only a 2-mile drive. And you feel the coolest with this one playing on the radio. Now, Rascal Flatts, the movie Cars, it's fine, but that original just is real good. It's definitely a heavy road trip song too. But you're even saying like sure. It's not just road trip; it's just in the car for any reason at all. It's in the car for any reason. Like I feel the same way about Radar Love by I think it's is it Silver Earring. Radar Love is in the car in the summertime. Golden Earring is who it is.
Golden Earring. It's Golden Earring. Yeah.
Golden Earring. Like those are just songs that you just listen to on a hot, like 84-degree Midwest summer night. If you are out to get ice cream, these are the anthems. So not only am I recording this shit off the radio, I'm also listening to this on hot summer night.
I can't argue with that. And I have this, it's that kind of like armchair philosophy style thing too, and I can just picture little Donnie in the car being like, you know what, Dad, life really is like a highway.
Totally. Trying to find something deep within the song, like having no knowledge of what the lyrics are, what he's talking about. But I'm like, you know what? Maybe life is a highway. I'm gonna go ride my bike.
What year did that come out?
1991. And Tom Cochrane still 1 million monthly listeners, 151 million listens, and I'm dying to know if Rascal Flatts, if it was played and if it has more listens than the original. Absolutely, their number one played 656 million listens.
Holy shit.
Poor Tom Cochrane. Is he? I don't know.
Poor guy. He's getting paid for that too, though. He wrote the song. So
that's true. Yeah, Rascal Flatts, the Cars movies.
So was this something that was this like a bonding thing? Like this wasn't just Donnie. This was like a family song, like a.
So, like, I can remember, again, songs recorded off the radio. So I'm sitting in my bedroom. Yep. I definitely have sports-themed border and wallpaper in the bedroom.
Oh, 100%. I had that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Baseball, football, sports themed border and wallpaper. And I'm sitting at the radio. I hear bad Chicago disc jockeys kicking off Life is a Highway. I hit the buttons and I am listening to this song through the end, rewind, listening again. It was just such a jam in its time that I couldn't get enough of it. So it was not only like frequently played off of my mixtape, but also, you know, if I was allowed to play the cassette in the car, it was definitely coming with.
It's a good one, man. It's a good pick.
Yeah. What genre would you put that in? Would you put that in, like, it almost was a classic rock song, but immediately?
That's why I asked what year it came out, because to me that sounds very much like late classic rock that bled into the 80s, but that's 91. So like
totally. It's like you wrote and released a classic rock song.
But I mean, Bon Jovi was still putting stuff out until like the 2000s and having hits. And they still had that sound.
You just sparked so much with Bon Jovi. And what's crazy is that as we're having this conversation, I'm remembering other songs that I recorded, like Nelson, I Can't Live Without Your Love and Affection. That was definitely another
Nelson,
recorded.
Man, that's a deep cut.
That was another one that like I remember recording off the radio now that like we're starting to talk about this. And then
everybody pause this and go listen to Nelson.
Oh man. Twin brothers.
I would call this like pop rock, honestly. Like it's like radio rock, which is like pop rock. And I don't mean pop in a derogatory term at all. Pop's amazing. And it's just that like it's a rock song that you could hear on pop radio.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
In fact, probably mostly on pop radio. They're not playing that on like the alt station.
And I don't think, and it was too new to play on the classic rock station. So you're totally right. It is absolute pop rock.
Trying to think, the indie alt station was X103. There's no way X103 was playing Life is a Highway.
The Loop was definitely playing. 101.9 The Loop in Chicago was definitely playing Life is a Highway. What's your next?
Oh, all right. So my second song, 1994. Again, I'm not going in chronological order here, but Regulate, Warren G featuring Nate Dogg.
It was a clear black night, a clear white moon. Warren G was on the streets trying to consume some skirts for the E, so I could get some phones. Rolling in my ride, chilling all alone.
Just hit the east side of the LBC on a mission trying to find Mr. Warren G.
My first cassette single.
Was it?
That was my first single.
I mean, there you go. That's like mixtape vibes. It's like you got to hear the song. You went out and bought the single. Like, dude, I'm recording it off the radio.
My favorite part was regular track on one side of the single, instrumental on the other side of the single, and my little suburban white ass trying to rap the lyrics to the instrumental on the backside. Like in the mirror, in the bathroom, single trying to rap the whole song.
I have this on my list of karaoke songs, which feels somewhat inappropriate. But we should do this karaoke sometime. One of us takes the Warren G part. One of us takes the Nate Dogg part.
You know what? It doesn't yield the crowd reaction you'd hope it would.
It probably doesn't, especially two lame white guys getting up there.
Totally. Yeah. It does not yield a crowd reaction. Believe it or not, I have done Regulate in karaoke, and I'll tell you, Mother by Danzig is a far bigger hitter than Regulate for sure.
It makes sense. So here's what I'll say. I took a couple notes on this. So one, this song, I wasn't allowed to listen to this stuff. By listen, I mean buy, right? Like obviously the radio is going to be the clean version. So I'm allowed to listen to anything on the radio, but I specifically remember not being allowed to purchase this album. Because I was too young at the time and it had parental advisory and stuff. I also do remember eventually, my cousin in Michigan had this whole cassette, and I remember being there for Christmas, like literally in his room under the covers, like flashlight style, like we were reading a book when we were supposed to be in bed, but instead we were sharing headphones, listening to the whole Warren G album. So it's like that, like forbidden fruit thing. That's one of the reasons I definitely would have recorded this, but I also, it has that like mixture of that like West Coast Dr. Dre synthesizer, like G-Funk sound thing, and the Michael McDonald song behind it. Like,
oh, dude,
keep forgetting, has that like yacht rock. It's like yacht rock meets, which I wouldn't have, that wasn't a term back then, but it's that whole like really smooth, almost like smooth jazz rock mixed with like the West Coast thing. I know that's what a lot of that G-Funk stuff was, but like, man, it's just, even now, it's like such a groove. Like,
when did you, so you said you and the cousin were listening to the whole album Under the Blankets. You said it's 1994. When did you transition? This playlist plays for this specifically. When did you transition from single songs to albums? Like, when did you buy an album for a song versus buying an album for the album?
I can tell you, I don't know the year. I'd have to look it up.
Okay. Do you remember the album?
I do remember the album. It was Collective Soul.
Oh,
was the first album I bought for a song. And it was the one with like December and Gel on it. And it looks like that came out in 95. I probably got it in like 96. So,
okay. So my first album where I went from album to song was Tragic Kingdom, October 10th of 1995, where, I mean, the hard one about this is that I think there's 9 singles on the album or 8 singles on the album. So I more or less bought it for the album, but the whole album became singles. So it's kind of tough. But I think that there is a transition in every, I don't know if this is true now, but like every R something's age, where you buy a album for a song or a single for a song, and you transition into listening to the whole album.
Yeah, because I remember buying like I had albums before that, but they were either because somebody gave them to me. Like I remember I had a whole Phil Collins album that I'm sure I did not ask for or buy, or maybe it might have been Genesis. Actually, I'm sure I had a bunch of stuff like that, right? Like my dad probably gave me or somebody, but yes, I explicitly remember buying the Collective Soul record because of
December.
Because of December.
Which is so funny that you weren't allowed to listen to Warren G and Nate Dogg, but you could listen to December, which is a whole song about fellatio, if I know that.
Yeah, well, you know how that stuff goes. Nobody has to actually know what the song's about. It's more like there's cursing, and 90s middle class white America's not, they're afraid of West Coast hip hop,
right?
Of everything. Yeah, that's better. That's a better point. They're afraid of everything. So I will say this too. I was into what I thought was hip hop at the time. Like I definitely had, and this is going to
be I'll tell you now, Rod, Snow by Informer is not hip hop.
It's worse than that. I had every Crisscross album, and I had the Whoomp There It Is single.
Of course you did.
I thought I was into hip hop. I think what I was thirsting for was real hip hop. So something like this being on the radio, I was all over it. So
you absolutely did try to put your pants on backwards.
You better believe I went to school that way at some point with my friend Ryan.
Wow, that's bold. Oh, I never would have had the confidence to pull that off.
Oh.
I mean, I did at home.
We for sure went to school with our like baseball jersey and I had a Michael Jordan, like an Air Jordan baseball jersey, not one of his jerseys from the Sox, just like a branded, you know what I mean? Just like a Jordan jersey. And I 100% put my jeans on backwards, like in the bathroom at school, and turned my jersey around with my friend Ryan, who was also into crisscross. And we 100% did that until we got in trouble.
You definitely weren't leaving the house that way.
No. And I'm guarantee a teacher was like, no, go.
Yeah, go change.
So it probably lasted all of 5 minutes until we were told to go fix it.
Man, what a rebel!
And what can I say? You know, you gotta do something to break
the
monotony.
You got the streets
Indiana
in you,
life.
The crisscross streets in you.
You know, I knew I could feel it when they sang "I Missed the Bus."
Yeah,
I felt that, Donnie.
When they called you the Miggity Mac Daddy, you were like, "Yeah, that's me. I am that guy." Next song, 94. I got 2 from 94, but I'm going to do chronological. First one, Closer by 9 Inch Nails. May 30th, 1994 is the release date. Yep. Recorded off the internet, recording off the radio, obviously edited, recorded in the garage because, I mean, I'll be damned if I'm listening to Closer in the house, right? So, you know, you can't have that song played in the house, but definitely
it's too dirty. It's too dirty for indoors.
Even edited, it's too dirty. We know what they want to do like an animal, but recorded it in the garage was like a constant tinkerer in the garage, like forever taking my bike apart and put it back together. It was like, oh, I know what I'm doing, but I don't. I broke it most of the time. But, like thinking I was doing cool stuff, hanging out in the garage, taking my bicycle apart, playing with remote control cars. Now, the scary part is that I'm like 13 or 14 at this point, but recording Nine Inch Nails, Q101, alternative radio in Chicago, playing Closer by Nine Inch Nails. And I remember in that same garage spray painting the Nine Inch Nails logo behind the toolbox so no one would see, because you can't do that in the garage, and accidentally made the second N the correct way instead of backwards.
Oh no. No. When you say you spray painted it behind the toolbox, you mean like on the wall in your garage?
Oh, yeah.
Behind the
toolbox? It was on the wall.
Oh, damn.
And when we moved out of the house, it was still there. When my mom moved out of that house, years ago now, but like as I was an adult living out on my own, she probably moved the toolbox and saw it for the first time. And it was still poorly painted with the second N and the Nine Inch Nails logo backwards.
Talk about rebel.
Yeah. I'm not man enough to wear my pants to school backwards, but I'll definitely spray paint the walls.
You're tagging up your own garage. Like,
yeah, I want to go knock on the door and see if it's still there.
So do you think at that, 13, you were like, you're a little bit older than me. I was too young that song probably scared me when it came out, to be honest with you. And I definitely would have heard it because I was obsessed with MTV. So
right.
Maybe that's also why it scared me, because that video is still a little bit terrifying. Let's be
still
honest.
To this day, it's scary.
In a great way, but it's an amazing video and it's terrifying. You were probably like at that perfect age for it to feel really dangerous in a great way.
Oh man, it was the scariest song that I could be listening to that I probably shouldn't. It was still edited, I recorded it off the radio, so it was edited, but it was like, man, this is all things bad that I want to be a part of. And that was kind of like a gateway drug to probably more bad music. Like we've talked in the past about like, what were the rebel-y songs that we listened to. Like I remember getting the Offspring Smash, and like that was my first really profane album. So yeah, I would say that Closer was the gateway drug. Yeah,
it makes sense. And because it was such a hit. Like
totally, it was huge,
which is crazy for what that song is, but it was massive.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was the gateway for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Offspring was a big gateway for me. I'm sure we'll get into that in another episode. But
it'll show its face again for sure.
Already like you got Life as a Highway and you've got Closer by Nine Inch Nails. Like it's just that's what a great
making a great playlist.
That's what a great recorded from radio playlist should be.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to go back in time a year to 93. And this was probably one of the first things, maybe after like a Nirvana song, but one of the first things I probably recorded off of alt radio, Cannonball by the Breeders.
On the last splash.
Ooh, that one's so mature.
I don't
3 or that mature. Listen to the Breeders.
Was it mature? Because I still couldn't tell you what the hell that song's about to this day.
I couldn't tell you what it's about, but that's cool alt rock. That's not mainstream alt rock.
I didn't know it at the time, but I was really into the sound that a bass guitar makes, and I would later play bass. And I think my dad played the drums and he was in bands in college and stuff. So we listened to a lot of music in my house, mostly classic rock. And I wouldn't realize it until later, but I've always been really attracted to songs that feature the bass heavy. And that intro there's 3 intros in the song, which also makes it great for this playlist, because if you miss one of the intros, you can still, it doesn't feel like you missed it.
The next recording.
Because it has that like that distortion at the beginning and the like the vocal thing. And then it just goes into that like bass riff false start that's in the wrong key.
Do-do-do-do. Yeah, totally.
Then it kicks into the right key with the actual like intro to the song. You got 3 intros, so if you miss one of them or 2 of them even, you're still good to hit the record button.
Right.
But I do remember, I don't know if it was this song, but this song illustrates the point where I do remember having a conversation with my dad, asking him what instrument something was in a song. Like we were listening to a song and I'm like, what instrument is that? And he was like, that's a bass guitar. Like, so I'm really young here where I don't know the difference. And like at that point on, like I wanted to play bass. So, but I don't know, man, like this is kind of an intro song into that like heavier sound. Cause it's not actually that heavy of a song until the chorus. Like the chorus has that like heaviness to it, but the rest of the song is mellow. Not mellow is not the right word, but it's not like a full on grunge song, right? It's got that like it's got that Pixie
distortion.
sound.
She's got that vocal distortion on the chorus, which I can't think of a lot of stuff in the 90s that was doing vocal distortion. But also I can't wrap my head around how cool you were in 1993.
But I wasn't into the song because it was cool. I didn't know who the Pixies were. I didn't know anything about their history or Kim Deal. I was just dabbling in alt-rock radio, honestly. And I would have just been recording songs that stuck out to me, you know what I mean? And a lot of it probably was like, I mean, eventually it would become like The Offspring and more like punk stuff. Probably Nirvana and Alice in Chains and the Breeders. And I'm not probably listening to them knowing what I'm listening to, but I would have been like, that song's awesome.
It's a great song.
And yeah, I wouldn't call this a gateway song because like I don't think this led to other things from directly, but it definitely was kind of like I don't know, maybe you're right. Maybe it did make me feel cool at the time. It probably did. It probably made me feel like I was like a cool kid.
That's like 120-minute song. That's not like a TRL song. Was TRL playing in the 90s?
I don't know if that TRL was around then, but I wouldn't have been watching 120 minutes either because that was on late at night. I was watching MTV mostly like really early in the morning when I gotten up for breakfast, like because you go to school at like 6:30 a.m. at that age, and that's what I watched every morning. I was watching from probably the time I was like 9 till all the way through high school. I had MTV on in the morning.
Yeah,
and in the morning, MTV would play just like everything. Literally, they would just play any music videos.
Totally. Do you remember the morning radio, like the morning gig? Like, was it a show? Like, or was it just like,
I'm sure it was.
Videos?
I'm sure it was called something. I just know that they played pretty much everything. Cause I remember you'd see like a Michael Jackson video and you would see Nirvana and you would see hip hop, like you would see everything. I'm sure it had a name or I'm sure it changed through the years too, but I just remember it was all music videos. I don't even think there was a host. It was just music video. It was just
music videos. Yeah, totally. When it was music television and not ridiculous.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Spike Jonze video. So
really?
Video's pretty dope too. Yeah.
I had no idea. That's awesome.
Spike Jonze and Kim Gordon of Sonic Youth both directed this video together, which is so
That's
weird.
Really cool. All right. Well, I think in the theme of Spike Jonze videos, let me double check, and I'm pretty sure. Yep, totally. Keeping in the theme of videos, the next song, 1994, again, except later in the year, September 7th, Buddy Holly by Weezer. That was my second. That was probably my first. If I had to say Tragic Kingdom was the first album I was listening to, I probably bought the Weezer album, and then I bought it for Buddy Holly, and then I got Tragic Kingdom, and I was like, wait, you're allowed to listen to the whole CD. You don't just have to listen to the song that you recognize from the radio. And then I listened to the whole Blue album, which is probably in my top 5 favorite albums of all time still. But now the battle is like, what is a better album, the Blue album or Pinkerton, which is a great debate. But I remember vividly, still in the garage, so September, and the songs, that's when the album came out. So it didn't probably get a lot of radio play until Winter. And I remember that song got so popular because they had the Sweater Song, which was like the first Weezer single. And then Buddy Holly was the second one with the Spike Jonze video that came along with it. And that was super popular. And there was
all-time great video, man. It's an all-time great video.
Totally. And I remember the DJ on Q101, again, alt rock radio in Chicago, playing the song 6 times in a row. Was like, oh, you thought Buddy Holly was good? Wait until you hear Buddy Holly, and played it again. And it was like late at night, and I was like, this is what you dream of for recording songs off the radio. I'll record it once, and if I miss it, I'll record it again. And you've got it over and over and over again. So I remember, like, it's funny because I can bring that up to other people that lived in Chicago that have the memory of that happening. That, like, whatever reason, that dude played it so many times. But yeah, it's great.
It's crazy because for some reason that song feels later to me, but it wouldn't have been. Like, that's totally when that would have come out. There's something crazy about thinking of, like, actually your last two, like Closer and Buddy Holly, both being songs that you totally would have recorded off the radio onto a cassette tape. It just don't feel, I mean, it was transitioned into CDs at this time for sure, but like, it just feels like CD age music. But there was that like 8-year span where you're listening to both.
Right. No, well, not only that, but like, you know, if you think about financially, you know, I mean, I was working pretty early as a young teen, but like $18 was a day's worth of work. And who wants to spend that much money on a CD if you don't know if you're going to love it yet? So you record the songs off the radio, and that's what you get. You know, you get the singles. And if you love the single enough, you might give the radio a shot. But let me tell you, Alice DJ, Better Off Alone, that's when that starts to backfire. That's when just because you like the song doesn't mean you're going to like the record.
Well, there's probably a lot of that out there, but yeah, that's a good example. That's a great song though.
It is a great song, but let me tell you something, not a great record. Do you have any other memories of where the song wasn't that as good as the record?
You mean the record wasn't as good as the song?
Yeah, the record wasn't as good as the song, because I got a big one, and I know people that will disagree big time. But let me tell you something. Crash Test Dummies.
Oh,
the song,
for sure.
Pretty good. The record, not very good.
There's probably a lot, but for some reason, I'm putting myself in the same era. I do remember I was big Michael Jackson fan when I was young.
Okay,
right, like big. Like I had all of his music, and I remember buying Dangerous. Maybe that was one of the first album.
You got two CDs on that one.
Maybe no, that was History that got 2. Dangerous was the one before History.
That's right.
And Dangerous, I didn't like. I listened to probably like 1 or 2 songs on that record, like Black or White, and I don't know what else. Probably one other song, but like I barely listened to that record at all.
And to be a diehard MJ fan and to buy the album, you're expecting bangers front to back, and you get Black or White, and that's all you get.
So real quick, before I do my next one, tangentially to this conversation is I also remember, speaking of Buddy Holly, I also did this thing where I had a VCR TV combo unit in my bedroom that my parents had. One of those really tiny TVs, right? Like the like 10-inch or 12-inch TVs that had a built-in VCR. And I remember I would watch all the late night shows. Not the whole show. I would just watch the introductions to see who the musical artist was. And if it was somebody I cared about, I would record the performance. So somewhere, I think my parents probably still have them. There's probably like 5 VHS tapes worth of nothing but live performances of bands I was into or thought I should be into or had heard of even, that I would just hit record on like Conan or I don't even know who, Leno or whoever the hosts were, right?
There's so many layers to this, Rod, that I'm not even ready to unpack. Of like, number one, were you guys just like, you know, shitting on golden toilets with your TV VCR combo in your bedroom that you just get to record on? Like, man, talk about privilege. Number one. Number two, what kid is staying up late enough to record the musical act?
I was
on late night television.
And I wasn't
I'm
supposed to
impressed.
be. I wasn't
Right.
supposed to be. If my parents knew, they would have been pissed. And
Right.
I can definitely say it wasn't every night by any means. And it also wouldn't have, it probably would have rarely been the later, right? Because there's like the early late shows and then there's the late shows.
Leno
It
and
probably
Conan,
wasn't.
or Letterman and Conan. Yeah.
Yeah. It probably was only the later ones on the weekends, right? Like not school nights, because I don't think I could have stayed up that late anyway at that age. But I definitely remember doing it. I definitely had Weezer on one of those, at least one of
That's
those
so
tapes.
cool.
And I will also address really quickly. I mean, we weren't like poor by any means, but the reason I had that was because we had a big fucking Astro van. And
Please tell me it came out of the Astro van.
Kind of. So me and my sister played soccer, and we went to so many travel soccer tournaments that the van didn't have a built-in TV, but my dad bought a TV that fit in between the two front seats.
Yeah.
To keep me and my sister pacified on long trips. So that was that TV. And then when they got a new car, that TV just went to me into my bedroom.
What was the most watched VHS on the way to the soccer tournament?
I can tell you what it was because my sister always got her way.
And it was Big Green.
I would have liked that actually.
It was
Andre.
Ladybugs. Andre? What is Andre?
The girl has a pet seal. Do you not remember this movie?
I totally just Googled it and I totally remember it now.
I think it was the girl from Matilda, right?
No, it's not the girl from Matilda. What else is she in? I know the girl you're talking about. Oh, you mean Deb from Napoleon Dynamite?
She was Deb from Napoleon Dynamite.
Also the little girl from Waterworld. Great movie.
But my sister loved that movie, and Free Willy. A lot of Free Willy too. I don't know what the deal was with like water animals.
Big aquatic family, I guess, too.
But,
in addition to your soccer tournaments.
No, but I would rent Ladybugs from the video store.
Yeah,
a lot.
Get those nail breakers.
And I did own Big Green too, for sure.
Hey, get those nail breakers.
It's not appropriate movie at all. Like
it's not an appropriate movie.
Would be canceled in a heartbeat now.
Yeah,
as would every
sure.
Rodney Dangerfield movie.
Oh yeah, of course.
All right. This one's out of left field, man, and I think you're not going to believe me, but I 100% was obsessed with this song when I was a kid, and still am.
Okay.
"Wicked Game" by Chris Isaak.
Oh no, that's totally acceptable. Your Wicked Game by Chris Isaak. That's My Life is a Highway. I get it.
What it was like I wouldn't admit it because it wasn't cool to like what your parents liked, especially like my mom. But my mom heavily listened to like adult contemporary radio, so like Celine Dion, Amy Grant, Whitney Houston, that stuff. And this would have been on that same channel. And I secretly loved a lot of that music. Honestly, like it wasn't cool, and I wouldn't have admitted it to my friends. But this one felt cool enough. Like you could just tell he was cool. Like
was he?
He has that like quasi Elvis sound.
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
Like in his voice, right? And like the song had just such like I mean, this is a modern speak way to say it, but it just had such a vibe to it. Like
totally.
Like I was into this song, and I always have, and I think I appreciate it on a very different level as an adult, where I can relate to things more. At the time, I'm not thinking about like love or heartache or any of that stuff. It's just like a cool jam that would come on that I totally would have wanted to record. I don't know for a fact that I ever did record this off the radio, but it would have definitely would have if it came on and I had a tape in.
Sure.
I will also say before you do your next song, I feel like I have this thing in me in my music taste where I have this like not country, but like Americana Southern quasi country twang based rock thing. And I grew up on like the Eagles and the Allman Brothers and Marshall Tucker Band and Steve Miller Band, stuff like that Southwest rock. And then I also always had a thing with like Melissa Etheridge and Sheryl Crow and stuff. And like Chris Isaak kind of has that like twangy thing going on too, but it's just cooler. It's just like way more suave.
Yeah, he was a cool guy.
still is a cool guy, I think.
Well,
like, no,
also,
is he not? I don't know him personally.
He's probably cool. Can you name a special guest appearance, Chris Isaak, movie that he was in?
A movie?
Yeah, Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob still does recorded in a church. Guy Patterson's uncle in That Thing You Do, and recorded That Thing You Do in the church. And it was Chris Isaak that was like the recording engineer because he recorded gospels.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You're right.
I don't know why I have that up there, but it's in there.
I remember him also being he was on Friends.
Okay.
Because him and Phoebe had a thing. Like he ran like a children's thing at a library, and she performed there. I swear he was either on like the Drew Carey show or Third Rock from the Sun or something like that too, but I don't know for sure. I can just feel like that fits his vibe. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Yeah, like that, all of that stuff. Man, like he's got a pretty deep.
He was in Fire Walk with Me, the Twin Peaks movie too.
Yeah, he was in the Twin Peaks movie.
Which makes sense because I'm pretty sure some of his I think I read this when I was researching this, but I didn't type it out, but I'm pretty sure either Wicked Game or another one of his songs was definitely in some David Lynch movies, which makes perfect sense. It totally fits that vibe.
Dude, he's been in a lot of stuff. He was in Melrose Place, great show. He was in Friends for sure. And yeah, he was in Silence of the Lambs. What?
I don't remember.
Did you know that?
Chris Isaak was in Silence of the Lambs? I did. So he's like a legit actor. He's like straight up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's been acting since 1978.
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but a random memory just popped in my head. He had a talk show too, the Chris Isaak show.
No way. Oh,
yes.
Wait. Yeah, he did.
And I only remember it because he had Billy Corgan and Jimmy Chamberlain on once talking about, and I remember I've watched this clip where he is obsessed with the song 1979 and how they get that guitar sound. And Billy teaches him how to play it. And then Billy gets really deep into like his dad issues and stuff on that show. It's like one of the best Smashing Pumpkins interviews without Billy being a douchebag. Like it's like Chris is a great ask good questions. Billy's not being a douchebag. Jimmy is not stoned out of his mind yet. Or maybe or maybe he was clean after being stoned out of his mind. I don't know what it was.
For sure. Dude, there were 47 episodes of the Chris Isaak show. That's a lot. There were 4 seasons.
I didn't watch it, but I've since seen that Smashing Pumpkins interview a few times. So
who knew? Well, I wish. What a perfect segue if my last song was a Smashing Pumpkins song. It isn't, but it is my most obscure, and I don't have a good reason as far as why. But it was one of those pop culture song, big time one hit wonder, 1978, "Your Woman" by White Town. And again, recorded on the garage radio. And I remember hearing this song and hearing the DJ say the name and artist of the song, writing it on the wall in the garage, and waiting again for it to loop back around for them to introduce White Town because I couldn't remember the name and artist, and then recording it.
That's an amazing story. I love that you just use the walls of your garage as like notepads.
Totally. That's what you had to do.
I mean, it is a garage.
Bicycle. Yeah, totally.
So did you have a pen or a pencil, or did you just use the grease from your fingers from your bike chain?
No, man, I wish I was that cool. No, I did have a pen. And seriously, I haven't lived in this house in 20 years. And I would love to know if some of that shit is still on the garage walls. I hope it is. I might go knock on the door.
I hope it just says White Town. Just randomly.
White Town, Your Woman, just written small next to the breaker panel in the garage.
Yeah.
Just so I could remember the name.
I had this on my big list, but then I wasn't being honest with myself. I didn't get into the song until I was way older, but it's such a jam. And when I saw it, when I was kind of like looking into it and I saw the date of the song and I'm like, oh, this totally fits. But then I'm like, to be honest, I definitely did not hear that song until later. And so I took it off mine, but I had it on my long list.
I'm kind of glad that we didn't have the overlap, but like what was bananas to me as I researched this song and remembered it as one of my songs is like how, you know, when you go on Spotify, it shows the artist at the top.
Mm-hmm.
This is a classic case of this song does not match this artist. The dude that sings this song is not the dude in the picture on his Spotify, but it is.
There's a really good, I don't know who it is, but I watched a YouTube, like there's this guy who his whole YouTube channel is like, Where Are They Now? For like one hit wonders.
Sure.
Oh, I think it's called like One Hit Wonderland or something like that, or something
Great
like
name.
that. But he did
Really
one,
good name.
and it's like a whole history of that artist, and he's still making music and stuff. But he's a massive one hit wonder, and you're right, he's like just this like nerdy computer.
Yeah. And like
guy.
What's so funny is that when I first looked it up, like he's sitting on a stage. He doesn't look like he would be the guy that's singing the song, and also has big straight edge X's on his hands. And it looks like that picture was taken recently, which I absolutely love. I think that's hysterical.
Yeah. What radio station would that have been on? Would it have been on like alt rock?
Yeah, totally. It was total alt rock at the time. And again, it was like late night recording it. Like it came, I don't think I have the exact date when it came out. It was 1997. What's crazy to me is when these one hit wonders are these people that have that one track, what they still average in terms of monthly listeners. And he still averages 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. To have
that
one
song though,
yeah.
It's ageless, man. That song could have come out like 2 years ago, legitimately.
I don't disagree with that at all. You're totally right. Yeah, that's one of those songs that I think transcends time. Like he is one of those dudes. Like, and I wonder if is it like a Dashboard Confessional thing where White Town is just the one guy?
Yeah, it's just one guy.
Okay, but just goes by.
But and I only know that because of that thing I watched on it. But yes, it's one guy.
Yeah, I would have had no idea. But yeah, you're right. It's timeless. That would still be a jam right now. It's just good pop music. Even though it fell on alt rock radio, it's still just a great pop rock song.
I had it on my long list, so I'm all about it. It's a great song. It's a jam. It's a true one hit wonder, right? Like we were saying earlier,
Totally.
No Rain. It's like nothing they had even approached that, but they put out some great music after that. Like
Totally.
I haven't heard any other White Town stuff, so I'm not saying it's not potentially great, but like it's like he's probably was getting like almost 0 listeners on all that other stuff, and he's getting in the millions on that one song.
I wonder, like, I don't know. I do have it pulled up. His next biggest song is at 500,000. Whereas Your Woman has 135 million listens, right? His next song has 500,000 listens, same album, but not even a third of what that single has.
You think that 500,000 listeners is mostly people that just stick the whole album on to see hear what it's like? And like, that might be the second song. Like that's the song after.
That's right after. It
Yeah.
totally is. That's the song that comes after for sure.
I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from Mr. Whitetown, but
right.
That's totally what that is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I didn't even consider that, but you're totally right.
All right. Well, continuing my from earlier, my desire to be harder than I actually was. At the time, 1995's smash hit "Gangsta's Paradise" by Coolio.
I'm the kind of G the little homies wanna be like, on my knees in the night, saying prayers in the street light. Been spending most of the night living in the gangsta's paradise. We've been spending most of the night living in the gangsta's paradise.
I 100% recorded this off the radio. No doubt in my mind. This wasn't a buy the single. This was like the music video was everywhere with Michelle Pfeiffer from that movie and Coolio.
Dangerous Minds, dude.
Hair.
Dangerous Minds. Give the movie some respect.
For some reason, when I think of Dangerous Minds, all I can picture in my mind is the spoof movie that they made.
Oh God, that was so bad. Okay,
remember that spoof movie? And the dude there was like miniature like Hot Wheel cars driving around the guys braids.
It wasn't one of the first scary movies, was it?
No, it was before the scary movies, but it's that same idea, right? It's like a complete spoof movie. But yes, Dangerous Minds, which I did actually go. My grandma took me to the movie theater to see that movie. But man, that song was everywhere.
Oh, it was everywhere.
Everywhere. I feel like I looked this up the other day, but the Spotify plays are insane. if I remember. Oh, 1.5 billion.
No
1.5 billion plays on this song on Spotify. Like,
holy shit.
This song was everywhere. Like this song, like, all right. So the main like pop station in Indy was called WZPL, and it was pop, right? Like you get a little bit of pop rock, like your Sheryl Crow stuff, but it was mostly like pop, like dancey stuff, whatever. 100% they were playing this song. It was so massive.
Wow, 1 billion plays.
I don't know, man. And I listened to it again. Like I listened to it prepping for this. I hadn't listened to it in a while, and like people like to make fun of Coolio or whatever. It's become like not cool for whatever reason. Like I don't know, like he's not tough enough, or it's fake or something. I'm not saying that. It feels like that's what people think about him, but man, that song goes though. Like it's such a good song.
Did it have anything like? I know that he grew up pretty rough, right? Like, I don't know what his background is. I mean, rest in peace, Coolio. But,
I mean, I don't think he was like
it wasn't like Ludacris.
I don't think he was like a fake or anything,
super,
you know?
Yeah, like Ludacris, who grew up super privileged. But what's cool is that Ludacris it's not like he raps about going through tough times because he grew up with money. But either way. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was like, yeah, I wonder. Well, I know he did a bunch of reality TV bullshit, didn't he? Is that when like Coolio
maybe that's what it
credibility?
was? Like it feels like at some point he just became kind of almost like a joke of himself a little bit.
Yeah.
But like this song, it's an amazing song, but it also is very much of its time too, right? Like where
What's so funny?
Like I feel like Regulate is a little bit too, but that still holds up really well now. And I'm not saying this doesn't hold up, but it feels even more specific to like early mid 90s.
Man, that's a heavy movie. That's kind of the Lean on Me of our generation, even though Lean on Me is a great movie.
I mean, it's also that whole like white savior complex movie, like white lady goes into urban school but like, I mean, it is that. It feels like way more of those came after that. It felt like it wasn't a played out thing then, or at least it wasn't talked about then. I don't remember anybody having huge issues with it then. It was a lot of like the later stuff, but I mean, it still has that whole like, it's definitely got that.
Yeah,
you're Michelle right. Pfeiffer coming in to save the day thing. But
you're not wrong.
Great song though. Great song. Great video. You know, one of the better like music videos to feature. Like I'm not a fan of music videos that feature movie footage. Usually it feels very forced and corny and bad. But like that movie did it better. And was Coolio in the movie too?
No, I don't think he was.
Was he not? Okay. Well, maybe I'm kind of talking out of my ass here because I didn't watch the video. I just remember liking the video. I wonder if they made him look more like naturally in that. Like he's totally like in like a high school hallway. Like
totally. Well, yeah, they're like rapping in the classroom the whole time. Yeah,
so it felt more like integrated into the video, and I just remember liking the video. I haven't watched it in years, so maybe I'll go watch it after this and be like, what did I just say? This video's terrible. But it was everywhere though, man. Like they played that video like 1 million times a day on MTV and VH1 probably too. Like
totally. That was edgy for VH1 for sure.
Oh, for sure was.
All right, my next one that I just threw on the list in the midst of recording, which is a rogue move. Not only just an absolute jam, but also a very good video. It's got to be Always by Bon Jovi. Do you have any relationship with this song? Like, this was the song that you put on the mixtape for the girl that you wanted to date that probably didn't want to date you back, which isn't the theme of this playlist, but I remember recording this off the radio to put on that tape for sure.
I can't say I have much of a relationship to Bon Jovi at all, other than their like big, massive songs, and this song's not coming to my mind.
Oh, dude.
I'm sure I know this song though. I know this song, right?
You've got to get after this video when we're done. It's Carrie Russell is in the video, and like she's like in her prime, and like not quite Felicity yet, so she wasn't super popular, but she's like getting really popular. But she's in the video, and like I remember it just being the coolest video of like this dude that had a girlfriend that cheated on his girlfriend with another girl, and they broke up. Like in the video, it is intense. It's like a short movie.
It's like a very sappy sounding song, but I'm not saying that in a bad way. I mean, I can
for sure
think of some Aerosmith jams that fit that, and like
absolutely
a few. But I'm not. You'll have to educate me a little, because I never was really into Bon Jovi. All I can think of is like "It's My Life," like the bow bow song. And then like the Deadliest Sketch song, whatever.
Wanted, Dead or Alive?
Dead or Alive. Thank you.
Yeah. It's
I'm not familiar with Always.
Yeah, it's more of a monster ballad for sure. 1994, it was their longest charting single, like of all of the songs that they had. So
really,
it was on, yeah, for sure. It's a massive song. It's on their album Crossroads, which was like, I remember like they kind of followed a little bit of an Aerosmith trajectory, where it was like they were huge with their 80s stuff, and then they went away for a while, but then they kind of reemerged with 90s stuff, and it was equally as big as their 80s stuff was, because you could argue the same thing with Aerosmith, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think John Jovi followed the same pattern of like, we were big in the 80s with like Runaway and like, I think, but then I can't remember what the time was between Runaway and then Always, but Always was massive, dude. It was a huge one, and it is a jam, but the video makes it even better. But yeah, that one for sure recorded off the radio. This would have been for sure pop mainstream radio, and it is this is a ballad for sure. Primo John Jovi.
I love that you call him John Jovi.
Well, I think that it's upsetting that he ditched the John instead of the Bon, but I think that John Jovi would have been way more fun.
I like the formal John Bon Jovi. It's got a whole like alliteration rhyming thing going on.
For sure.
Like, he should just go by his whole formal name, if that is his formal name. For all I know, it's a made up name all around. But
no, formal name John Francis Bon Jovi. His last name is Bon Jovi, and he is a junior.
I'm looking at a photo of him from 5 years. He would have been in his late 50s, and man, he's still a good-looking guy. He's a hunk.
He's a hunk.
He didn't have,
I'm telling you,
he was. I know he was a heartthrob, and also, although I'm also looking at a couple more photos when he went through a bit of a Karen haircut phase. So,
well, yeah, I mean, you gotta kind of.
I hope nobody ever looks at my old haircuts and my old photos. So
you had a lot of swoopy bangs for sure.
We've all been there. I never did the swoopy bang thing, but I did do the like
absolutely almost had like swoopy bangs.
I swear I didn't, but I did like when I was really young. I had that like over gelled like hard cut bang thing that's like actually like cool right now in the UK, I think, but like which doesn't look good on anybody ever. I definitely had like a Nike swoosh shaved in the back of my head.
Dang.
At one point.
Was that in the crisscross phase?
Oh, 100% would have been in the crisscross phase.
Man, you were allowed to have some really cool stuff, dude.
Was I? Was that cool?
Yeah,
That's
I mean, cool. TV VCR combo, backwards clothes at school, Nike swoosh in your hair. I'd have been intimidated by you in school for sure.
Oh, man. All right. Last song?
Song.
Am I closing her out? This is my kind of life is a highway moment in mine. So I'm going with 1993's Runaway Train by Soul Asylum.
Runaway train, never going back. Wrong way on a one-way track. Seems like I should be getting somewhere. Somehow neither here nor there.
Oh, dude, it's so dark. Like, see, I think you were really cool.
I wasn't listening to or maybe I wasn't understanding the lyrics because.
Oh, for sure.
I'm just totally singing along to the chorus. Total earworm. Like Runaway Train. Yeah, like literally probably in my mind picturing a train. Like no joke. Like I'm
And
smart
also
enough to know he's not literally singing about a train, but I'm still probably picturing a train in my mind as I'm singing the song.
Also, white guy with dreadlocks, so he looks really cool.
Yeah, that's one way to say it. But yeah, he definitely looks like a rock star. That's for sure. I just remember loving this song, not loving the video because the video scared me because it's about children being abducted.
It is a super heavy video. Runaway Train was to music videos is what Unsolved Mysteries was to Sunday night television, where it's like, Unsolved Mysteries is for sure going to be kind of scary if I watch that when it's bedtime on Sunday.
My family was for sure watching Unsolved Mysteries every week. 100%. I remember watching it with my mom watching it. So
this is a fall song for sure. So I could see like Cold Fall Drive. You want to know what else is bananas about this song? It is a Grammy Award winning single. And listen to the songs that it beat. Crying by Aerosmith. Living on the Edge, also by Aerosmith.
Aerosmith, yeah.
Lenny Kravitz, Are You Gonna Go My Way?
Wow.
And Meatloaf, I Would Do Anything for Love, But I Won't Do That. And Runaway Train won.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me, sorry, sometimes time is weird, dude. The fact that it beat those songs is surprising. What's more surprising is that I Would Do Anything for Love and Are You Gonna Go My Way came out in the same year. Is that what you're telling me right now?
1994.
You're telling me that those songs aren't like 8 years apart?
No, 1994.
Wow. My mind's blown.
Yeah.
Like I just associate Meatloaf with the 80s so heavily.
I Would Do Anything for Love, But I Won't Do That was on the album Bad Out of Hell 2 Back Into Hell, and that album came out in 1993.
Bad Out of Hell 2 was Back Into
Back Into Hell. Yep.
Dude, the Bad Out of Hell cover is pretty
so cool.
Epic.
So cool.
And I imagine the cover for Back Into Hell is pretty epic too.
Hey, I'll tell you that the motorcycle guy is definitely headed in a different direction.
The last thing I'll say about the Soul Asylum song is because we addressed the video, according to Wikipedia, 26 children were found that were featured in that video. That's what Wikipedia said, and it's cited.
Of the children that were featured in the video.
That's what it says, dude. Like, I will read it to you. According to an oral history of Soul Asylum's Runaway Train from 2008 from Spin Magazine.
Okay, I'll call that a credible source.
But it wasn't the author who claimed this. It was a member of Soul Asylum who was being interviewed.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Stated that 26 missing children were found after being featured in the video.
How many kids were featured in the video?
36 missing children were featured in the video.
So only 10 weren't found.
There's a People article from 5 years ago that says 11 kids from the Runaway Train video are still missing. So that would imply that 25 of them have been found. A lot of varying numbers here.
Yeah. Seems like they don't really have all of their
You know what,
together.
though? Kudos to them for doing something with their music video to potentially help people, though.
Absolutely.
You want to recap the songs here?
Yeah, let's recap the playlist. So I kicked it off with... Did I kick it off or you kicked it off? You kicked it off.
I kicked it off with No Rain. No Rain by Blind Melon.
And then we came to me with Life is a Highway by Tom Cochrane.
Yes, sir. And then we went to Warren G and Nate Dogg, Regulate.
Great song. I went Closer, 9 Inch Nails.
And then I went Cannonball, The Breeders.
Showing how cool you really were. I went Weezer, Buddy Holly, 1994.
Which might be my favorite song on this entire list. So well done. And then I went Wicked Game, Chris Isaac, which makes me sound way more mature than I actually am or was.
It does. Great slow down to the playlist rule. I went Your Woman by White Town.
And then I went Coolio, Gangster's Paradise.
I wrapped up mine with Bon Jovi, Always. What a monster ballad.
And then I closed mine out with Runaway Train from Soul Asylum, which I'm kind of regretting, but it's too late now.
Yeah. Well, when it comes time for you to arrange the songs and post the playlist, you might want to bury that one in the middle somewhere.
I'm not closing with it. It's too depressing.
Yeah.
It's definitely not an opener either.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
So at this point, we would normally say where we're going to post our playlist, but we haven't decided that yet. So we'll figure that out at some point, and everybody can go check it out on a later episode. But we'll try to get the playlist out for everybody. But you know what? If nothing else, you can just go listen to these songs if we sparked a reminder that you are into any of these, you know? Maybe somebody was like, absolutely. Oh, I forgot about that song. I got to go listen to that. So
I forgot about how good Gangster's Paradise was.
Yeah, maybe it's like, man, I haven't listened to Life is a Highway since I was a kid. I'm going to go pop that sucker on.
The good version.
All right, Donnie, thank you. That was fun.
Until next episode.
Until next time, it's been real. I'm gonna for sure listen to this, and I'll sequence this, and we'll talk about it on the next episode.
I love it.